Hello everyone, I'm Lisa and I'll start with a relation to reality. After you found, touched everything in the office, you realize your hands are dirty, ew, so let's disinfect them. But honestly, that's not good for your hands. But who disinfects the surfaces which I just touched? There are ways to reduce surface contamination in rooms that are gentle to the human tissue. BUVT lamps are one example, and the novelty is that it uses a spectrum in the visible region without the ultraviolet part. In this video, I want to present a test of an LED light bulb for the reduction of bacterial surface contamination. As bacteria, I used the Klebsiella pneumoniae, which can result in destructive changes in your lung, and the well-known Escherichia coli. Here is a prototype installed in a biosafety cabinet. And this is the light bulb, which you can just switch on at home. Let's start with the experiments. First, I will show the experimental procedure. For the treatment, bacterial suspensions are transferred onto plastic plates and spread to reach a homogeneous surface. After treatment, they are collected with a swab that is resuspended in sodium chloride. To quantify the number of viable bacteria, irradiated stocks are diluted in a power 10 serial dilution row with a nutrient mix. It's important mixing each step well with a vortexer. Each dilution step is plated on agar and distributed with a spatula. The plates are put in an incubator to form colonies overnight. Here you see an example of this power 10 serial dilution. You can precisely quantify the number of live bacteria by counting their number. In a first experiment, I plated 100 microliter of my bacterial suspension. That's how the graph looks if I irradiate for 2 hours. Plotted is the percentage of bacterial titration, always referring to the initial value. You see, over time, there's barely no change at all. It's important to understand that bacteria need oxygen, the right temperature, and nutrients to grow. The drops grow very fast in the beginning because they receive a lot of heat and air contact. But since there is also a constant inactivation of bacteria, they can't reproduce anymore, and this results in the fall-off. The bacteria solution is very turbid, such that male light can't penetrate that far. If you would irradiate longer and if the drops are smaller, would the bacterial titration decrease? Let's check. This graphic shows the difference for the previous graph and the graph for the 50 microliter. We can say that if we use smaller drops, this leads to this drastic reduction. Look at these numbers. The surface area is similar for both drops, but half of the volume may lead to this effect. This leads us to the point, how realistic are 100 microliter for practical applications of these light bulbs? 50 microliter drops are far more realistic when mimicking surface contamination. We get similar results for the percentage of bacterial titration when we checked a different type of surface, for example, aluminium. Here you see for the first time the results after using the light bulb instead of the prototype. It seems to work quite well when looking at the percentage. I also show you the results for the second bacterium. Looking at the 14% titration for the coli bacteria, we got slightly different results for the light bulb, because it's less efficient than the prototype. But so far, we can only speculate why. In order to confirm the results, more repetitions are needed. What we noted, the drops dry over time. I always moisten the swab with the sodium chloride before collecting the bacteria drops. Therefore, we tested our analytical procedure if we use a dry swab, and the results show that you don't absorb all bacteria, and it makes a huge difference. Look at the numbers. These are 5 log scales of 10. In reality, you would have a mixture of both, since your fingers are, for example, sweating. A almost dried swab is a good model of surface contamination when you pick up only fractions with your fingers. The LED irradiation on SARS-CoV-2 virus with the prototype was tested on a multi-center study. The upper curve was derived by the Bundeswehr Institute of Microbiology, where I did my experiments. That brings us back to the title. How can we use these informations to design strategies for testing the antiviral impact of these bulbs? First, let's go to a biosafety level 1. The time points can be chosen comparably to mine. As a virus, you could use, for example, non-zoonotic coronaviruses, and put the bulb in different heights. Required is at least one able to realize in a biosafety cabinet, and normal room height to compare the impact of the irradiated areas. Additionally, try to investigate dried and wet drops. For biosafety level 2, so the one I worked on, you could use the same time points and human coronaviruses like cold, etc. Also try different surfaces, like I did with plastic and aluminium. For both levels, it's important to do at least 3 experiments to get representative results. I want to thank especially Major Dr. Ehman from the Institute for supervising and trying to answer my questions. I also want to thank Mr. Hock from the company Aurora, providing the BOET bulbs, and Professor Daumer, creating the contact with the Institute. Thank you all for your attention. I hope you realized that these light bulbs have a great potential for the future. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them.